Yo people, welcome to the first episode of Fighting Talks, where we talk everything fighting. And I thought I'd start this channel, talk about everything fighting related, whether it be MMA, boxing. Obviously in particular we're starting off with UFC content, and I just thought, you know what, I really love combat sports. Why not just start talking about combat sports and make a dedicated channel for it? I love so much sports. I love football, basketball, NFL, you name it. But I just feel like I have proper love for combat sports, especially mixed martial arts, and I just thought there's no better time to start talking about it with a massive pay-per-view card with UFC 299. And I thought, you know what, it's such a stacked card, let's just talk about it, break down the fights, and hopefully try to grow this page. So I appreciate everybody tapping in. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all the good things for me. And honestly, the comments is what I'm looking forward to the most. Want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions throughout the fight year and just the future going forward with this fight game. And just there's probably going to be a lot of fun fights throughout combat sports, whether it be mixed martial arts, in particular the UFC, hopefully PFL and the Bellator merger, maybe even some of the influencer fights. But we'll see how it goes. And obviously boxing, you've obviously got the Adrian Ngannou fight coming up, so hopefully big boxing fights we can just chop it up. I have so much ideas for the page, so hopefully I'll just try to figure some things out along the way. But ultimately in the beginning, just going to try to stay consistent as much as I can, upload for you guys, and yeah, just share my thoughts and feelings on just the fight game and just talk everything fighting, hence Fighting Talks. And hopefully we can, you know, create good content and hopefully entertain you guys. So gonna start off now with UFC 299, which I'm absolutely ecstatic for. I think it's gonna be an absolute crazy card. It's absolutely stacked. I'm just looking at the fight card, just been going through it, and I'm just thinking, wow. A lot of these fights on the card could easily be fight of the night main events, and they're all literally on this one big pay-per-view. We're taking it to Miami, UFC 299, main event of O'Malley versus Chito Vera. And let's just get straight into it really. The first fight being of the main card of UFC 299 in Miami in the 305. And yeah, first fight of the card, which is absolutely insane. Peter Yan versus Song Yadong. This is a really, really good fight. And we get to really see where both fighters are really at in their careers. Let's just start with Peter Yan, because Peter Yan obviously literally fighting with Sean O'Malley recently in on his 3 fights losing streak since losing the belt against Aljamain Sterling. It just hasn't been good for Peter Yan since. Obviously he's lost the rematch against Aljamain, then obviously lost a split decision, I'm pretty sure, against O'Malley, and then now obviously losing against Morab. Obviously it's not really a good streak, but then again you're losing to current champ, former champ, and probably the next guy fighting for the belt after this fight between O'Malley and Vera. So I don't think there's anything to be down about if I am Peter Yan, but then again it's not a good look, because then one more fight and you lose the next fight against an up-and-comer, against Song Yadong, it's not going to be really looking good for him. So whether we don't know where Peter Yan could go, with losing against Song Yadong, you know, it's one of them ones where what fight does he take next? There's top contenders, you know, that are just waiting in the wing in that bantamweight division to really take his spot. But I do believe that Peter Yan does have the ability, and I feel like he will get it done against Song Yadong. So now let's just move on to Song Yadong. I feel like he definitely needs this fight in terms of really bridging the gap and really taking it to the next level. He's actually obviously got a win over Chito Vera, you know, early in his career in the UFC. So he's shown that he can beat top level guys. But it's weird because he's also lost to guys like Kyler Phillips, who's obviously on the prelims, fighting against a guy like Pedro Munoz. And he's obviously lost to a top level contender against Sanhagen, who they've obviously made that matchup and tried to push Song Yadong forward as an up and coming rising star. So Song Yadong is obviously in a particular position. He's obviously 26, so he's pretty young. So he's actually got a lot of time. He doesn't have to, I guess there's no real rush in his process for fighting for the belt eventually. But this could be a really good test for him to see whether he's at that level since his loss against Corey Sandhagen. So I think we'll see an all-action fight, you know, really on the feet, really both guys, maybe in a couple of grappling exchanges. Let's see how Peter Yan defends it. But I think it'll be mainly on the feet between both guys. But if I had to edge it, I think it'll be quite similar with the Sandhagen fight with Song Yadong. I feel like Peter Yan is just that level above right now. And I feel like that 3-fight losing streak shouldn't diminish what he actually has to bring to the table. And I feel like he will be able to get a couple of fights going. You know, there's still a lot of big fights. I feel like if he can win, you never know, he could take the lose of this fight and really put himself and propel himself back into that title contention, you know. Being on a 3-fight losing streak isn't always the best or the best ideal situation to be in, but I feel like being on a big pay-per-view fight card with your division, having a championship fight as the main event, there's no perfect time to really put yourself back into that title fight contention. So I think I'll go with Peter Yan, unanimous decision, and I feel like he'll be able to put a dominant performance and really show everybody that, you know, he still has it, and that's just a little blip, you know, and he can really put fights together again, a little winning streak, and really fight for that title again. And I just feel like it's just crazy to think that with that ripple effect of him throwing that knee against Aljamain Sterling, what if that could literally be a whole video in of itself that hopefully I could probably dive into. Hopefully you guys like that idea, so let's see if we can do that video for the future. But for that fight, Peter Yan, Song Yadong, I'm going Peter Yan unanimous decision. And which now takes us on to the next fight, Gilbert Burns versus Della Maddalena. I think I could keep this one quite short and sweet. With this fight, it's quite interesting again with the welterweight division and the state of it. Gilbert Burns, obviously, he's been a mainstay in this division for a long time now. He's obviously had big wins and obviously big losses against the like of Kamaru Usman, Chimaev, and obviously against Belal Muhammad recently, where obviously he got injured. But I think that shouldn't diminish Belal Muhammad's win. But you know, it is the UFC, it is the fight game. Yeah, I feel like this is Gilbert Burns' time to really show and fight against an up-and-coming riser in JDM and really show that he's still up there in the contenders. JDM, obviously, the hype hasn't been the same since, you know, his last 2 wins, weirdly enough. Obviously, he had the short notice fights against Basel, where it was a split decision. His last 2 fights have been split decision wins, so I think the hype has slowly died down, but I think that works in his favour. I think his boxing is so crisp, I think his striking is so crisp, and I feel like having a big fight like this against Gilbert Burns, against a top contender in Gilbert Burns, this is a really good fight for JDM to really show the rest of the division and everybody watching that he is a top and up-and-coming rising contender, and, you know, add his name into the mix against these top guys. And so with that, I feel like I will go with JDM, unanimous decision. Wouldn't be surprised if I see a TKO. I feel like it's going to be an action-packed 3 rounds. And yeah, I feel like this one, you just don't blink. I feel like both guys are going to be swinging. Gilbert Burns is going to be swinging heavy. Again, it should be his own main event on the fight night. So definitely could be a good one to watch. Definitely will be a good one to watch, actually, I should say. So yeah, Gilbert Burns, JDM. I'm going with JDM by unanimous decision. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised with a TKO with JDM. So yeah, gonna go with JDM win. Then it brings us on to, I think, the fight I'm looking forward to the most, Kevin Holland versus Micheal Venom Page. Obviously, being from the UK, we all know what MVP is about. This could easily be fight of the night. Honestly, performance of the night from both guys, either guys. With Micheal Venom Page, obviously, we know from the UK what he's all about. Obviously, coming from Bellator. And it's quite interesting with his current position in the UFC, when he's joining the UFC, coming from Bellator, obviously being 36 years of age. It's quite interesting to see what route or what kind of fighter he will be in the UFC. And what I mean by that is it's interesting because he could easily have a Michael Chandler route where it becomes a case of having entertaining fights. You know, you come into the UFC like Michael Chandler, where he's coming in blazing hot, beats Dan Hooker in fantastic fashion, then obviously loses against Oliveira for the vacant lightweight belt, and then ends up having the fights against your Gaethjes, your Poiriers, and Ferguson as well, Tony Ferguson with that amazing front kick to the face. So you're going to have, with Michael Chandler, really exciting high-level fights, entertaining fights, you know, wowing the fans. And I feel like with the Micheal Venom Page fights, when it goes really well for him, and it has gone really well for him a lot of his MMA career, you are going to see really, if you go back and watch his highlights, he's got crazy highlight finishes. One of my favorites being obviously the flying knee, breaking the guy's skull with the Pokemon celebration. I just feel like that was an absolutely stunning KO. That was absolutely crazy. So if you go back and watch his highlight reel, you know what MVP is all about. And I feel like you can definitely have both, where you have entertaining fights and it can definitely propel you to the title shot. You know, it could easily be an all UK affair against Leon Edwards, and I think that would easily be a main event in London. Could easily be done. I think that'd be quite sick. Easily sell out in the UK. And yeah, literally, I think he said in this week during his presser, he's only 2 spectacular finishes, and I feel like there's emphasis on that, spectacular finishes, for him to really get that title shot if Leon Edwards is still champion after, I guess, hopefully Belal Muhammad, him versus Belal Muhammad. If that is the case, we could actually potentially see that. It'll be fun to matchmake anyways against MVP. There's loads of fun fights with other strikers and other guys that could really make a fun fight, being Wonder Boy, being Vicente Luque, being Ian Gary, obviously Jeff Neal. There's so many good fights. Obviously Shafkat. I don't know if you want to take that Shafkat that Shavkat fight is bloody scary. So I don't know if anybody wants to take that Shavkat fight, but that's a side point in and of itself. MVP, there's loads of fun fights for him in the UFC. Depending on what kind of direction he goes in, he can still have the entertaining fights, but it could just be signing up to an MVP fight the same way you sign up to a Kevin Holland fight, just all action packed, entertaining. You know what you're getting, you know what you're signing up for, but maybe there might not be that same direction or that drive to get into a title shot, or he gets to spectacular finishes and he could easily set himself up for all UK affair against Leon Edwards in London. That would be literally amazing to see as a UK fan and try to get to that fight. But yeah, like I said, if you haven't tuned into MVP, tune into MVP for this fight. You won't want to miss it. I would have to go for MVP unanimous decision. I know I'm going for a lot of unanimous decisions in this fight card, but honestly, there's a lot of pick and fights, and I feel like there's a lot of pick and fights, but I also feel like there could be a lot of dominant performances, and I feel like a lot of these fights are actually quite fairly even, and I feel like the UFC done a really good job with the matchmaking, so I can't really hate. I feel like they're just really good fights, and the UFC done an amazing job at UFC 299, and yeah, I'm gonna go with Page unanimous decision, and that takes us on to our next fight, Dustin Poirier, the Diamond versus Benoit Denis, and I feel like this one could, again, I sound like a broken recorder, but this could actually be fight of the night. This is going to be war. Like, literally could be war with these two guys. Also, a 5-round fight to take into consideration. So it isn't a 3-round fight, which kind of swayed my pick for this fight being 5 rounds fight. And I feel like with the vet, with the experience of Dustin Poirier, I think it definitely favors in his way, because reason being is Dustin Poirier, you know what he's about. He's literally a proper vet in this game, and it's nice to see, and it's refreshing to see a lot of the top contenders give opportunities to the younger guys and give them that opportunity to fight for the full glory, really. You know, I feel like it's been quite stale at the top of the division, you know, with the same names of the Gaethje, the Islams, the Oliveras, the Dustin Poiriers, Michael Chandler being in that mix as well with Benoit Dariush. So obviously it's nice to see guys like Arman Tsarukyan being in that mix, Gamrot being in that mix. You know, and now we get to see Benoit Denis in that mix. So I feel like it's quite nice to see this fight happening. I feel like it's going to be a sick fight regardless. It's sick to see Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Denis, the same way we saw Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, the same way we saw Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. So we're seeing definitely those fights coming about and being made, and it's definitely mixing up that lightweight division, and obviously giving Islam more contenders to fight against, really. Whether he makes those fights going forward, that's another discussion in of itself. But staying on this fight, obviously BSD, Benoit Denis, he's on a 5-fight winning streak, obviously losing his UFC debut. That was a wild fight. Could have been a TKO loss for him, but obviously went to a decision. So honestly, we're just going to get real action. I don't know, it's interesting to see in the grappling exchanges where this fight actually goes, but I think for the bulk of this fight, we're just going to see these two guys absolutely slug it out. For it being a 5-round fight, I've seen how the fight can go for Benoit Denis when it's not going his way and dragging further than the first round. And I feel like it doesn't look pretty. But then again, we've seen him have spectacular finishes in his last 2 fights. That head kick against Favola being absolutely wild. So it's definitely interesting to see how that fight could plan out for either fighter. But because it's a 5-round fight, and just the sheer experience of Dustin Poirier, I know he's been talking about retirement and him being at the end of his career, but I feel like he's got so many chinks in his armor and the experience. I know he came off that head kick loss against Justin Gaethje, but I wouldn't take that into too much consideration. Obviously, when you get knocked out like that, it can play a big mental block on you. But I think with a fight like this, and a fight that could easily go in his favor as the fight drags on, I feel like it makes sense for me to go with Dustin Poirier. Whereas if it was a 3-round fight and BSD just really pushed the pace and just really went all out war, I would have favoured BSD to really cause an upset. But if I had to go with one, I think it would be Dustin Poirier by unanimous decision, maybe even a late TKO finish against BSD. But I feel like this, either way, I think fans are really going to see a real war and a real proper fight. And I can't wait for that fight, really. And that's a sick co-main event to height, 5-round fight. So I'm really looking forward to that one, which takes us on to the main event. Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera. Main event of the evening in Miami in the 305. Yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of bad blood between these guys. No love lost between them. Obviously, going back to their first fight, it's been a few years now. with Cheetah Vera obviously winning by TKO finish, obviously due to the perennial nerve in his knee, which was a thing back then. Everybody kept talking about the perennial nerve in his knee, and all that stuff. So obviously Cheetah Vera, I think, done what any fighter would do with that fight. Spotted a weakness, spotted an injury, capitalized, took the dub, and both fighters have gone on different trajectories. So with the main event, it's a massive grudge match between these two guys. It's the first title defense for Sean O'Malley. I wouldn't say it's a questionable one, which other people obviously said, is Cheetah Vera deserving of this title shot? And obviously he said himself that, paraphrasing, that obviously he's gifted Cheetah Vera this title shot as his first. But I feel like the story speaks for itself with this title fight. Obviously going back a few years with the TKO loss against Cheetah Vera, where he had the injury to the knee, and with obviously a good fighter with a good corner behind him, capitalized on that injury, and Cheetah Vera obviously got the TKO win against Sean O'Malley. So now we're going a few years ahead now. We're at this point. I feel like it does make sense for this to be a first title defense. Why not make it a first title defense? All Cheetah Vera had to do was win, which he did do against Pedro Munoz. So obviously we're now here, and I feel like this is perfect. I feel like it sold itself. There's a storyline behind it. Easily could be a rubber match. You never know if Sean O'Malley wins, and then you never know. Sets themselves up for a trilogy, depending on how the fight goes, obviously. But since that fight, Sean O'Malley has just done himself justice. Won the fights that he's needed to win. Arguably, maybe not the highest level of fighters, but obviously you build that winning streak, you build your confidence back up. He had a little blip against Pedro Munoz with the no contest with the eye poke, but nevertheless cemented himself against Peter Yan with that big win over him, and obviously fighting for the belt against Aljo, and in spectacular fashion, really, being Aljamain Sterling in that way to get his title. So I feel like Sean O'Malley definitely deserves his belt, and I feel like it's fully warranted, and I feel like whether you argue whether the UFC have pushed him forward for that belt, doesn't matter. Job still needs to be done. And I feel like Sean O'Malley's done everything he needed to do and controlled the variables in his favour to get to that title and to secure this title. And now we're here with Cheetah Vera obviously losing against Corey Sandhagen, which you could argue there's other contenders that should be fighting for the belt, like a Corey Sandhagen who beat Cheetah Vera, and like a Merab who's obviously been on a crazy streak and obviously could easily be the number one contender next. And obviously Sean O'Malley said that Merab should be next for the belt, and he would love to defend his title against him. So that could easily be the next fight up, with Sandhagen could potentially be fighting Umar. So that's the division right now, the way it's looking. But with this fight in particular, it's interesting. Being a 5-round fight, Sean O'Malley's never gone a 5-round fight, whereas Cheetah Vera has gone a 5-round fight with Corey Sandhagen, and we've seen how he's performed. Obviously, Corey Sandhagen being the better fighter on the night, but then again, having that 5 rounds underneath your belt is always valuable experience, regardless whether it's a win or loss. So it'll be interesting to see with this fight in particular. I feel like my heart says to go with Cheetah Vera, only because I feel like being a vet in this game and really working his way up to this point of his career, being on the biggest stage of them all and fighting for glory, I feel like it would be an absolutely beautiful way to really get himself at the top and kind of not wrap up. He's not old, so I don't want to say wrap up his story, but I really would put him there and cement himself and, do himself really proud and his family proud by getting the title, I should say. But yeah, with this fight, my head says Sean O'Malley is the clear favourite for this fight, and I feel like should be the betting favourite for this fight. And I feel like all the tools of what we saw to start off with that first fight, I can't help but cling on to what we had in the beginning. But with that round, I feel like Sean O'Malley gets it done. I feel like there's nothing for me to doubt what Sean O'Malley has done in his prior fights, especially against Peter Yan. I think that's the fight for me that really stuck out the most, where I was like, wow, like he's really leveled up, and if he can strike with the best of them and it put Aljamain the way he did, I feel like there's no reason for Sean O'Malley for the hype chain to die down anytime soon. And I feel like he's just a level above, and I feel like he's definitely a solidified champ. And I feel like having this as his first title defense, I feel like he's gonna win. And I feel Sean O'Malley, unanimous decision, goes all the way, goes the distance with Cheetah Vera. Cheetah Vera having been KO'd or finished in his career, so in the UFC, and it'll be quite interesting to see, can Sean O'Malley do the unthinkable and finish Cheetah Vera? That's a question that they've thought about. Could they actually finish him or not? I feel like unanimous decision makes the most sense. I feel like it will be a dominant performance from Sean O'Malley. The way I look at it is, if Sandhagen, who I feel like Sean O'Malley and Sandhagen would be an absolute blockbuster of a fight, really high level striking, a high level MMA fight. I feel like if Corey Sandhagen has got one over Cheetah Vera, doing a bit of MMA math here, then I feel like Sean O'Malley definitely has the skills and the ability to definitely do one one over Chito Vera. So if I had to put a pick, I'll put down Sean O'Malley, unanimous decision against Chito Vera at UFC 299 in Miami at the 305. And I thought that if that wraps up the fight card, you know, this is a really, really stacked fight card. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to tune in. Please let me know what you guys think of my predictions. You guys let me know what your predictions are. Like I said, hopefully going to be creating more content as it goes along with the UFC and the fight game with the other events. I want to try to stay as consistent as I possibly can. So bear with me. Starting off with a fight like this, you can never go wrong. This is absolutely a banger of a fight. Such an amazing fight, I think. And I can't wait for this fight, really. I can't wait for this fight card. It's so amazing. It's stacked. It's absolutely stacked. Arguably the 300 before the 300, which would obviously create a separate video for where I'll do my fight predictions for that UFC 300. But let's forget about UFC 300 in April. Let's focus on UFC 299 in Miami. Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera 2. Can't wait. Tune in. Please give me a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all your support. And like I said, really big on the comments. So please let me know what you guys think. Any video ideas that you want me to do going forward. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts. Am I chatting rubbish? What are we thinking about these fight cards? I don't mind getting into debate. Just, you know, going back and forth. I love the open communication. So just want to be able to get involved with the community, the MMA community, the boxing community, the fighting community. Obviously, hopefully collab with other creators. I just got so many ideas and so many bright ideas for this channel and a vision for it. So really want to be able to push this brand forward. Talk a lot about fighting. This is Fighting Talks, where we talk everything fighting. It's been Fighting Talks. It's been your boy Eunice. I'm going to have all my socials in the description below, as well as the socials for Fighting Talks. So please give them all a like, give them all a follow, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, comment down below. And I can't wait to create more content. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Take care, guys.